All right, welcome back to the Faith Unfiltered podcast. I am your host, Henry, and today I'm really excited for this podcast because if you remember episode 12, I had a good friend of mine, Tim, on the podcast, and today I have his fiance, soon to be wife, even though that's what fiance means. And I'm really excited for this podcast. I think that Taylor has a lot of good things to say, and so I'm just really excited to get into this episode. Without further ado, Taylor, how are you doing?
I'm good, Henry. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on to the podcast. I'm excited. I'm
I'm
excited.
excited.
I,
Yeah.
I think it'll be really good. How's
Yeah.
how's life? How's life with Tim and everything?
Life's good. Can't really complain, just living our best life, planning 2 weddings and working, doing, just life, but enjoying each other in the process. So it's been really good.
How's the wedding planning coming along?
If somebody was to tell me, "Hey, Taylor, you need to plan 2 weddings in less than 8 months," I would be like, wow, that's a big task. But we're doing it and it's exciting. We've pretty much got everything ready for June. That'll be our church one. And he's kind of taken the ropes on that one and how
Mhm.
he wants the ceremony, the scriptures and stuff he wants spoken. And then the Annapolis one on his uncle's property in August will be the party, the fun with all of the family and friends. So we're looking forward to both experiences.
That's great. I would be really stressed out. I
It's
would-
it's it's interesting. I mean, I'm a project manager during the day, so I say like my 9 to 5 is project management, but that's more construction based, and my 5 to 9 is project management, but in a fun way. Just like
yeah.
kind of pouring both of our personalities into a day has just been really exciting and fun.
No, that's amazing. I'm just slowly behind, you and Tim because I'm actually happy that I can talk about this on the podcast now because I have had to lie way too much to Allison. It has been absolutely crazy. But by the time this podcast drops, I will be engaged.
That's awesome. I'm
Super
so
excited.
excited.
I know.
Yeah, we
It's
love this for
actually
you.
I am super excited. It's gonna have been cold. It will have been cold by the time that we propose and everything like that. But or I by the time I propose and everything, but I'm really excited. It's gonna be a little chilly in Chicago by the lake with a lot of wind. So we'll
I
see how
love
that
it.
goes.
It will
But
be 100% great.
yeah, no, I think it'll be good. I had a solid conversation with the photographer today actually, and, like, we were, like, sorta, like, scheming up a way for her to, like, come up to us as if it's, like, totally normal. Be like, "Hey, like, can I get a photo of you guys?" And that was, like, my original idea because that happened, one time when Allison and I were out at lunch to eat.
Wow.
One time, like, a random photographer just came up to us and asked, like, to take our photos. We didn't like any of the photos that they took. I looked atrocious, so I was, like, the girl in that scenario. I was like, "I don't look good. That wasn't my right side. Like, I don't wanna do that." But this time it'll be good, and I'm really excited, so it'll be
Oh,
good.
that's awesome.
I'll
I love that. You just plan things so perfectly and it's all in like good meaning and where you come from and
yeah,
I'm sure you have it planned for like the both of you in mind. So that'll be exciting. I'm just so excited, we've just heard a lot about it or
yeah.
your thoughts and everything going forward and it's just going to be perfect for you. And it's coming from you. And like Tim said, he's like I had so much scripted to write and he said like none of it and I honestly couldn't even tell you what he said. We were just so like in the moment and it was just like I couldn't ask for anything better. We're both just like so nervous even though, we're both going to say yes, of course, like or I'm going to say
Yeah,
yes. This is great. But
yeah.
it was just like being in that moment it didn't need a script. It was just like me, him and God just on the beach or my favorite place and 100 roses and I couldn't ask for anything more.
That's amazing. So wait, okay, so quick question though. So when he did propose, what was, like, your thought process? Because he had it, like, all done up, right? Like, he had, like, a circle with, like, flowers and stuff?
Yeah, so he had planned it himself and the crazy thing was we've like talked about this so much is we were going to the Outer Banks. Like it was a really important place to me. He wanted to really see the Outer Banks. I'm just like a low-key beach kind of person and I had lost my grandfather that year who was a really big like memorable person figure in my life and one of his favorite places was the Outer Banks. So of course
Yeah.
Tim, being Tim's like I got to do this. Like that's just like super important to her and it was supposed to be so rainy that weekend, and I was like, "Well, like, we'll still go." Again, I didn't know, like, the proposal was happening, right? We were just taking a weekend beach trip, and as soon as we saw the, like, first Outer Banks sign, like, the skies just opened up and they were blue for the entire weekend. It was, like, the most
That
insane thing. It's like, what are the odds? I was like, "It was supposed to rain all weekend," and, we had a day at the beach, and then he proposed on, I believe, the Saturday, and then it was September 20th, so the Saturday, and then we left Sunday, but I mean, just like how perfect is that? And, just like the people above, like my grandfather, like God
yeah.
just thinking of us, like this is meant for them. It was just like such a real thing. And of course, Tim is so desperately trying to keep a secret and he can't. He's just like that little golden retriever puppy. I call him my golden retriever boyfriend because he's just like always tail wagging, smiling, like so excited to see me when I come home from work or, even that day. So he was just like so in the zone, like when he goes to the gym. And I'm like, what is going on with him? Like we're on
Yeah.
vacation, he's like, I gotta run out. Like I'll be right back. Like just, finish getting ready and then we'll go out to dinner or whatever he had told me that night. It's like, okay. So, I'm like, I hope he's okay, And then he comes back and he like drives, we drive over to the pier and I was like, oh, no, I know exactly what he was doing. Like, how I'm just, like, so in tune with like, we're very in tune with each other. So I'm like, "How did I
Yeah.
not know?" And I was like, "I bet you he's got some, like, artist, like, some music artist singing." And if he didn't, we walked up to the pier, there's a guy waiting with a guitar, played "Joy of My Life" by Chris Stapleton, one of our songs, and walked us down to, like, the 100 pink roses he had set up, and, it was a little bit of a walk, and there were still some people on the beach, and me being introverted, I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's, like, people looking at us." Like, he's, like,
I
just
know.
happy as can be, just, like, walking us down there, and again, we just blacked out. It was, like, in the moment, just, like, there. The pictures were great. He had a photographer there, and he knows I'm big on pictures, so that's, like, all I could ask for. So you getting that photographer is I mean, just, like, you can always look back on those, and they're, like, pure in the moment photos of just, like, what had happened that time because
Yeah.
you just are so in the emotion. There's so much going on that, like,
Mhm.
having those photos is, like, one of my biggest, like, gratitude moments of just thankful to, like, always look back on.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely amazing. One of the things I wanna hit on what you just said, and you may honestly or when Tim listens to this, he may start, like, using this because I got this from Allison's parents, right? So, when Allison and I it was a few months in when Allison and I first started dating or whatever, and obviously, like, when you're with Tim and when Tim's with you, like, like, the love is just high, like,
Yeah.
you're in that constant honeymoon phase where you're just not running out, and I never knew how to describe it, and when you said golden retriever, it reminded me of this. So, Allison and I went out to dinner with her parents, and her dad was being goofy or whatever, and her dad looks at her mom and goes, "Whenever I see you, my tail wags."
Aw.
And I was like, "That's it.
Yeah.
That's it." I was like, "Allison, whenever I see you, my tail wags." So you
Aw.
you just saying that about the golden retriever, dude, like, just reminded me of that, and that's absolutely amazing. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love that.
that's cute, that's cute. And, I will say one of the things that's been funny so far is, like, with Allison, right? I've been one of the things that she likes me to do is to almost have, like, things planned out, like, for the day. Typically, I'm like, "I'll do whatever you wanna do."
Aw.
And she's not that type of person. She's like, "I wanna have a plan. I need to have a plan." And normally I'm like, let's just go with the flow. But this time I'm like, hey, like I have an idea. At 8 o'clock we'll wake up. At this time we'll do this. At this time we'll do that. At 11, or I was like, at like 11:30 we can go for a walk. And then I filled up like the rest of the day so I could fit that little point of going on the walk there. And it's like so funny because now she's like, are you sure you want to go on a walk? Like it's gonna be cold. And I'm like, sweetheart. I really wanna see the lake. I
We have
really
to go
wanna
on that
see the lake.
walk.
We have to go on this
We
walk.
have
You
to.
you don't understand now. Jesus says this, you don't understand now, but eventually you will. Just trust
Yes.
me. So
Aw.
keeping that in is really hard because I literally tell her everything. So
Yeah, yeah. I can't I he just did it so perfectly, and again, just, like, you could just see that, like, tail wag, like you're saying, just the, like,
yeah,
so excitement, just like but it's crazy, I get that every day when I come home from work, he's just always so excited. He's just like, "I loved you, I missed you." We always joke, he's like, the dog Doug and Up, who's like, "I'm just so happy to see you," like, "I
yeah.
love you." That's exactly, like, just him, so I'm so glad that, like, the nerves kinda suppressed and he just, like, came back as his little golden retriever puppy self, and it's just, like, the sweetest thing that and it'll be the sweetest thing for you guys, and I'm just really excited for you both.
That's amazing. I absolutely love that. But okay, so to transition just a little bit,
Sure.
I really want to get into this topic on, your experience with God, church, spirituality, just where you're at in your journey. And I know one of the first questions that I wanted to ask you would be, when you look back on your life, where have you most clearly experienced God? Or where have you struggled to find him? So either of those.
Yeah. It's tough because I was raised Lutheran, so I went to a Lutheran church in Harford County. My grandparents were really well established there, my mom's side, and I was lucky to have both sets of grandparents. And my parents still worked full time when I was growing up from until I was 5, and then my sister was born, and my mom ended up staying home. But I saw both sides as like my mom's side, established in the Lutheran church. She went to Catholic High in Baltimore. My
Mhm.
dad's side wasn't like a denomination necessarily, but they believed in heaven, like good deeds, being rewarded. And so I got to see both sides of that. And what I loved about like the denomination side of my grandparents at the Lutheran church is like they had a community. Like no matter where they went, my grandfather knew 5 people off the bat. Oh, that's like so and so, that's so and so. And whether it came from his like career, the church, or anything, like I really loved that and I wanted to model off that. And then also my dad's side was just so welcoming. So like anyone can come to Thanksgiving. It doesn't matter if you're family, a friend, a stranger. Like it was just those two aspects I feel like were very much like the teachings of the Bible, whether they were denominational or not.
Yeah.
So I think for me, religion was like I was raised with it brought up in my life, but I was never forced to do anything. So I had a few things that my mom was like, I really want you, I was baptized Lutheran. I went to preschool, 3 and 4s at my Lutheran church. So I was like, I remember still getting my like first Bible and stuff, but,
Yeah.
and then I got like confirmed in the Lutheran church and it was exciting to see like you went to preschool with these people and then now you're coming back at like confirmation age. And that was really cool. But I think like where I first found God is more so like later in life, in high school and when I just like would have situations where I'm like, why is this happening? Like why is this happening to me? And or why is this happening to someone like I care about or love? And they're good people, like, but there's got to be a bigger purpose and there's got to be a bigger reason for like why something's happening, right? So that's when I really started to focus in on like everything happens for a reason and there's a
100.
higher power and God is going to lead you on a path whether like you saw it for yourself or not, but like maybe his path might not look exactly like yours, but it also push you and it also like give you opportunities that you may not necessarily have ever imagined for yourself.
Oh my goodness, that's like amazing. What was like, okay. So I know like for me, right? When I was in like high school, I got to a point where I honestly I never mentioned it out loud to anyone, but I started to think to myself like, is God even real?
Right.
And then I had to wrestle with that for a little while, but then I came to the realization like, okay, God exists, but he's also just like off doing his own thing because he doesn't interact with the world anymore. That's where I
Right.
used to be. So I was like a deist. Were you ever in like a phase like that by any chance?
Yeah, I would say like again, like coming up through like elementary, middle school, you're like so focused on like I got to do well academically and like make friends and find my like community and my passions and do well in school. Like my parents were they were strict, but they were never like, you have to do something like but
Mm.
you have to give it your all even if you don't like it. So I feel like even in those circumstances, I just never really thought about him. I never really thought, I was like, I remember learning about him. He was here, but I don't really see him because, like, I'm just so absorbed by the world and finding my
Yeah.
different, like, areas of life at that point. But until high school where I was, like, in my running career, I played every sport known to me. I'm like lacrosse, basketball, soccer, all of those. And then in high school, I decided to do running, and it was like I did cross country and track, and it was like the most it was most memorable decision
Mhm.
for me looking back on it because you're just surrounded by such a genuine group of people. Not only did they maybe like try out for other sports and not make it, but like it was just such a good community to be a part of and pushing myself in an individual sport, which I had never really I was always playing team sports. So I never really knew how that transition would be. But when I was in my junior year, I ended up making the top runner for the school, and I had made
Wow.
all Harford County, like, in the newspaper and stuff the past 3 years, and then
That's actually really cool.
I loved it.
That's
It was my
awesome.
proudest, like, accomplishments, and my junior year, I break 20 for a 5K, I cross the finish line, and I just pass out, and I had been running on shin splints for the past 2 years, but I was like, I really wanna meet this goal, like, people usually peak in their junior year, and I ended up having stress fractures, and I ended up being on crutches for 8 months, and my senior year of high school, I was supposed to run for Towson, like, there was so much of my dreams that I was just like, "What happened? Like, why? Why now?" And that's when that kinda God aspect really started to come into my life again, where I was like, "Well, there's gotta be a purpose to this," but, like, I'm just so defeated, and like you said, it's like, is he even here anymore? Like, what's he doing? Why am I going through this? But I think later in life, I realized, it's actually because I was so introverted, I was so shy, I was so in my element leading not with my voice that, like, I was forced
Mm.
to lead with my voice senior year. So I was still there for the team, leading them, but it's led me to my career today of, like, I'm a project manager managing, like, 50 plus people a day that I would have
Wow.
never done, had I not had that happen and had those experiences or put myself out there to, like, actually use my voice to lead. So that's really my moment of, like, coming, like, he was there, he, like, was looking out
Yeah.
for me again on that path that I never saw for myself, but he pushed me to that path, and I have him to thank for everything I have now.
One the one thing that you mentioned right there that really piqued my interest, I mean, for starters, that is a crazy accomplishment. I mean, that is sick.
Thanks.
Um, you mentioned something, and I feel like anybody who listens may really, really pick up on this part. You said that you found your voice. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people can struggle with. I mean, I didn't find my voice until my sophomore year of college. I mean, I was just literally like a little baby puppy. Like, you would never catch me speaking in front of people like that. And now you know what
Yeah,
I
look at
do
you
for, like, my
now.
line of work. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, it's crazy. So it took me a while to find my voice. But, like, what was a turning point there that helped you to find that?
I think I just put a lot of faith in God and, like, again, it didn't really matter to me that I didn't always go to like church every Sunday. I try to go to the holidays, go with my grandparents, support them from time to time, but I always found I learned from then that I had found God in the people around me. It wasn't necessarily as honorary as it is to, be in his home and be in the church and
Mm.
feel him there. I felt him in more in the people around me. So like in that moment, I collapse and like all of my girl varsity running team is like they're helping me up, my best friends like picking me up and putting me into a chair and like talking, trying to like again kind of like revive me from like having passed out in that pain and that struggle. But it was like all of those people without them, like because he's not here, like, able to, pick me up himself, it's
Yeah.
just, like, he sends his other people, like, to help me and, like, encourage me and guide me and love me, so it was just, like, really that turning point of, like, wow, I feel him in these people, and, like, I need to even though I can't lead them by running anymore, I can lead them with, like, my voice and encouragement and, like, really helping guide, like, newcomers onto the team or even just in, like, other groups or things I was in high school, just like giving people that experience. I have used that experience of me passing out and like finding my voice in like so many college essays, interview essays of just like, this is how I came to be. And I couldn't have done it like without him.
Yeah. Yeah, so you would say that that was, like, the moment or the season that really shaped your faith for
Yeah.
better?
Yeah,
for
for
better.
sure.
That's amazing. So I want to go a little bit back to your upbringing, just a little bit. How did your upbringing influence your view of church and spirituality today? So I know you mentioned that your parents didn't like force anything upon you, which is honestly a good thing. Because you have to be really careful, I feel like, when it comes to your children. I feel like if you force it, and you really gotta have, like, a good church to go to if you are going to force it, right? Like, if you don't have a good church to go to and you force it, that is a method for disaster. But in the way, it's like you weren't forced to do that, so you were able for your faith you you were able to allow your faith to become your own before, you know before many others. I mean, typically, people don't find their faith until, like, college because they have to leave their parents, they have to go out and make their faith their own. So, yeah, how would you say your upbringing influenced your view of church and spirituality?
I think my parents did it well. Like, my dad always followed my mom's lead. Again, she was kind of more in the like denominational faith of bringing her kids up. But I think just giving us that choice of like, hey, I want you to meet these like, requirements in my book. I'll introduce religion to you, but what you want to do with it after that is your choice. But the baptism and just again, the like confirmation, going to preschool there, like it really helped me build a community like from the ground up. I've known these people from 3 and 4 years old to now I'm coming back. We all kind of like went to different high schools, played different sports, and like getting to see them again. It was like, well, you do have a community here. You have a community like in your sports teams. You have a community in your high school. So I think it was nice to see both sides as well from my grandparents, having kind of been back and forth between them growing up and my grandfather again having that like sense of community and trying to establish that for myself where I found it through different groups but I had pieces of it. I had like the faith group and I had sports group in high school and they all kind of intertwined and like connected in some form or fashion. But I think just having that here's what we like want religion for you to look like, just those few like aspects, but what you do with it after that is up to you. And it was just really like I got to make my own choice. And I feel like I kind of relate it to, if you have a really strict parent that's like, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to do this. The friends that I had with those parents would kind of rebel. Like they're like, no, I want to make my own choices and I want to,
Yeah.
follow my own passions. And I feel like if I had been in those shoes to be like, you have to follow this religion, I just wouldn't have found it on my own in the way that like I feel it. I may have resented it and may have never come to like, really appreciate it and really find that path and make all of the connections like with Tim, with yourself, like that I have, So I think having that choice is just always like make it your passion and not necessarily like a forced part of you.
Mhm. So with, like how would you define, like, your personality type? Like, would you say that, you know, if someone forces you to do something, whether that's, like, church or whatever, would that have, like, 100%, like, turned you off, do you think? Because
I
I mean,
think
like,
it,
we all have that rebellious, like,
yeah.
nature.
Sure. I think it would have I don't know if it would have turned me off completely, but I definitely would have had a different route of finding like my faith and religion. And I've like told my friends too, if this method didn't work for you, like find one that does. Like it's never too late. Like you can always find
Right.
like how you feel comfortable with it. So like I told you like before, I've never felt the most comfortable coming to a church. I felt like when I was growing up, there was a lot of judgment. There was a lot of, like, who is she? Like, why is she here? Or, has she been following God? Is she really a Lutheran? Or, the most recent church I've been to is Catholic. I'm not Catholic, but like, I'm still of the Christian faith. I follow a lot of the Christian values. And, I like experiencing those different aspects. I've never heard the universal prayer sung. That was just like mind blowing to me. I was like, this is so cool. But just having that ability to choose and like find where I'm comfortable. Like I talk to God like a friend, chance. Like, I
Yeah.
used to, like in your other podcast, you're like, if I'm not praying on my knees, like, what am I doing kind of thing. And I'm more so was that same way. I was like, if I'm not making that dedicated time to him, like, what am I really doing? But I then, like, again found my comfort of like where I wanted to have him in my life. And I felt like just talking to him as a friend, like throughout the day, I actually talk to him more now than I did setting time away for him. So just
Yeah.
having that ability to choose has really shaped so much of like how I perceive God, where I worship him and like how he is in my daily life.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think one of the key things, what you just said too, is talking to him like a friend. Like, you're from a Lutheran background. I'm from a Catholic background. We both come from the same experience of a very traditional service,
Yeah.
right? And so when it comes to that traditional service, we can get ourselves into this mindset on how we're supposed to approach God. And literally just you're saying it without even saying it. It's that relationship first and then religion second. I can't tell you how many times I go into the chapel at work and I just lean back in the chair and I'm like, "All right, God, this is what's going on. I really need your help with this." And then I'll just sit in silence for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's so like that's so beautiful in the journey of everything that from what you're mentioning. What's your view on like church on your church now and just whatnot?
I think Tim's had a lot of impact on me. He's like, give it a chance. Of course, I love to support him. And actually, what really shaped my view on like church rather than faith was I took an American Sign Language class in college. And one of my assignments was to go to a deaf or hard of hearing church, like a community event for them. And I chose a church. I was like, if I'm looking for a community that's like, I'm not a part of, and I really want to understand, like, maybe they would be more open to me coming to a church. So I went to the church, and what the most incredible thing for me, again, coming from that like very traditional service, the hymns, the organ, like I was just like, church was kind of, not to say it badly, but it was just like very like just monotone, kind of. I
Yeah.
didn't really feel like God's presence there. Like I knew he was there, but I
Mhm.
myself didn't like necessarily feel it. And when I went to this church, like they had music still, like people were singing. It was upbeat. They were swaying, and I was like, but they're hard of hearing. They can't hear this, but they could feel it. Like they could feel it in themselves and feel it in the
Right.
people around them. And I was like, this is just so moving. Like church can be something that's like really moving. And I think from that moment on, I was really trying to find a church that had that music. I'm a very like artistic person. I feel through like art and I feel through music. And
Yeah.
I think I express myself through music and I feel things a lot heavier through music. So when Tim and I met, obviously being a pianist for a church, I had like thought, why don't I give that a try, support him. But it was like the most like mind-blowing feeling of the music that is at that church. And it just really
Yeah,
drew
dude.
me in to like, this is really enjoyable. I love it. Like I feel God's presence here. I feel it like in my soul, kind of like those people did, even though they couldn't even really like hear the music. You could tell it was moving to them. And I think that coming to the church that, Tim plays piano at, it was like the first experience for me. I'm like, wow, I like really can feel it through music, and it was just an eye-opening experience.
That's amazing. So I have to ask you about this. You called it a what? Deaf and hard hearing church?
Yeah, hard of hearing, the deaf
Right.
population, they had, their church in inner
What does
city
that what
Baltimore.
does that what does that look like? I mean, I'm just intrigued because I'll be honest with you, I did not know that that was a thing, and I probably should
Yeah.
know that that's a thing, but what does that look
Yeah.
like? Does the pastor preach via sign language?
Both, they have both. They have, because I guess a lot of the people have family members that aren't necessarily deaf or hard of hearing. And when I first stepped in, I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to like communicate with anyone? I was like a beginning ASL student. So I was trying, they're like, oh no, we have people, interpreters. We have a pastor who preaches, but we also have like someone who signs. So it's like best of both worlds. But even the people you knew, like you would see them signing to like their, family or whatever they were swaying like to this music, and it looked exactly like the church, we go to, of just like pews and music
Yeah.
and a choir and the pastor, and they were just like so in tune. I guess when they say like you lose a sense, you gain like more strength in your other senses. So I guess maybe they just
Mhm.
like felt it like in their, in their hands. They felt like vibrations, like
Yeah.
something of that nature, where they just were really like in tune, and like you could just feel the presence of God in all of them and in the like church itself.
That is so cool. That is
It was
so
really
cool.
cool.
Yeah, you learn something new every day. I did not
Yeah.
know. That's amazing. I know, like, at at the church that, like, we go to, like, they have, like, hearing assist, but I know
Sure.
that some obviously deaf can't really use that either. Wow, that's amazing. What, or who has been a spiritual influence in your life, and how did they impact the way that you see God now?
I think I've had a lot throughout life, my friends who have had different feelings towards God, different religions. I always loved learning how they have like really felt God or like followed God, my mom, my grandparents. But I think the biggest one lately has been Tim. He's really like shaped my experience of churches, of God, of just being a good person, and really like he is someone that I can truly see living out those values of like what God preaches. And I think when we first met, we first met like 10 years ago in a seminar class at Towson, and when we rekindled and like we followed each other over Instagram, it looked like he did that for full time, a pianist job at a church. And I was like, I'm really worried. Like I've always been interested in him to a degree, but what if like because he's very, proud about his faith and being in the Catholic Church, like what if we don't work because our values are different? Or, I'm Lutheran, I'm not Catholic. What can we get married? Like, what does that look like? I'm just a future planner. And like,
Yeah,
whenever
no,
I think of that,
100% right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
not like day one, like, when are we getting married? But just like, how is that going to impact our relationship if we do go forth with this? And, one of the first things he had told me was like, I just pride myself on being a good person. And that just like really hit. I was like, that's exactly how I feel. And we're both very similar, and we just feel through music. We like, have the same values, the same like core of like how we want a family in the future. And I think just with how he actively has God in his daily life, that's kind of what inspired me more so too, to like just keep talking to God like a friend. Like, you come to church when you feel it's in your heart and you need that like different experience, but at the same time, just the way he's like so vulnerable with God, and like in his like after his workouts, and just really
Mm,
like praying, and or if he's having a really bad week, he's like, I haven't talked to God enough, like I need to pray to him. And it's just like really admirable. He's a very like big role model with religion. And just with being with him, I've met you, and I've met Kevin, and like a lot of the other young adults there, and just even the people who have served there. One of the first ministers I met, he was so like welcoming and just like, hi, like, how are you? He
yeah.
actually called us T squared for the first time. And I was like,
Oh, that's
wow, this is
amazing.
so
I love that.
awesome. Yeah. So the TC squared, I owe it to my guy, Michael. He's a service member there. And he was always just like, it didn't matter, how I was feeling that day. If I was like a bit more, off, or he's like, hey, like, I'm glad you're here. He checks on me when I don't come. Just not that, life's just been busy with wedding
Yeah,
planning and everything. I
for
still watch
sure.
online, love it. But one of the other ministers I met, because I really gain a lot of my relationship with God through like serving. And in college, I got involved in a lot of community service, and it really
Mhm.
fills my cup, just helping others and helping people. That was like, well, this is awesome. This church, like, has so many service opportunities. I'm going to be a
Mhm.
greeter, and I really want to like get into that community. And the greeter who trained me, Chris, is one of the reasons I still come back, like as much as I do, to the church. He was just like, look, I'm just a normal person. I'm here. I just want to make someone's day every every time I'm here. And I want
Yeah.
them to feel welcomed and feel like they belong here, no matter where they're coming from. And that's just like, that really hit me so hard. And it's just, I like thanked him. I was like, thank you. You really made like this huge impact on me of like, I just want to keep coming back and being you and making that difference of like, you just never know what someone's going through. And I always prided myself growing up of like, be nice to everyone. Like, you never know how close someone is to their breaking point, how much
Yeah.
courage, like myself, I like it took a lot of courage for me to come back to like a new church. It's a kind of a daunting experience when you're not used to coming to like a church every week. And he was just like, I'm just a normal person. This church has really like helped me get through my struggles. And I just want to repay the community for that, through like God's love and welcoming spirit. So those three people, Tim, Michael, and Chris, have really just impacted me, tremendously.
Oh my gosh, that is great. You have a gift at this. You're
I
really
get
you're really good at, like, storytelling all of this stuff through. I mean, this is really good.
Really? I feel
I'm
like I'm
loving
like, am I going off like we call it pedaling? I
No,
like
no, you're not. No, you're not. You're killing it. You are killing it right now.
you're too
How do you
kind.
well, actually, before I get into that, I wanna say, yeah, it is so important to have, like, those those normal people, right? Like, in your life when it comes to your church, like, community and everything. It's so important because, so many of us have, like, this really weird, like, thought of people who go to church are, like, overly zealous, or they're just, like, churchy church people, and they're, like, just, like, Bible thumpers and all these different things, but then when you actually hang out and you're with, like, these cool regular people, you're like,
Yeah.
"Wow." Like, dude, church is awesome.
Yeah, you're just like me. Like, yeah, just
Yeah,
finding that community, that inner community that like my grandfather always had. It's like, you're not anywhere you go, you're not gonna like get along with everyone, right? You just gotta find
yeah,
your people. And I think that finding that has really like made me like, I'm gonna keep coming back. Like that's the people that you just need, like the normal people you said, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, I love that. I know there's a saying too, I don't know who said it. I'm really good at this too, by the way. On
You
every
are.
quote I no, well, no, not in that way. I'm talking about whenever it comes to quotes that I say, I'm really good at remembering quotes and then not remembering who said the quote. But there's a quote and it's like, churches are not museums for saints, they're hospitals for sinners. And
Hmm.
that is like one of the most mind-blowing things that I've ever heard because it's like, yeah, we are all pretty much the same. We are all coming for the same spiritual nourishment, which is just beautiful. But how do you navigate doubt? Because obviously, doubt is something that will always come up in our life. So, how do you navigate doubt when that shows up in your faith journey?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think everyone kind of goes through spurts of doubt. I think, you know, I really have tried to take for what Tim does too. It's like in those moments where I'm like, where is God? Like, why is this happening? What's going on? He's like, I just need to like pray more. I need to talk to him more and I need to show gratitude. So the gratitude the aspect has really like pushed me to be like, instead of wondering like where he is, it's like, why not thank him for everything that I do have? So it's like I can't really focus on the negatives. I got to focus on the positives because he can't just constantly hand me out, good cards like aces, right? Like I
Yeah.
do have to take some bad with the good. It's all part of the learning experience and the lessons. And I think it's just more so putting that trust in him that he is never going to fail you to a point that you can't handle it. Like he's going to push you to learn these lessons, to take these teachings, to like do what you will to like overcome them. But at the same time, it's all part of that path that like maybe you didn't see for yourself, but he saw for you. He's going to push you to do that. And just giving that gratitude of like, I'm really thankful for these people in my life that he has brought into my life for like the situations, the,
Right.
accomplishments that I've had. And I leaning again on the people, like feeling God through other people. So it's like feeling him through Tim or like even the, young adult friends we've made, just like surrounding myself with those people or going to see Chris and Michael at church. Like surrounding myself with those people really helps me in those doubtful spots of like, these people are still here, doing the best they can. Like, I'm sure they're going through struggles too. And as long as we can kind of lift each other up and like lean on each other and like God through each other, then
Mhm.
those seasons of doubt, they're temporary.
No, that's oh my goodness. No, that's great. I know whenever like I'm facing doubt, Allison has like this really great gift of like asking at the right time. And she'll say like, "So how's your faith journey going?" And I'll say it's either good or you know what, like I'm struggling in this aspect.
Sure.
And another thing that she's also really good with, especially just when it comes with like, I mean, we all face doubt, right? Like it's hard. It's hard. And like you, I am such a planner for far distance. Like it's probably dangerous at how much I try to plan too far out. So much so that Allison's like, Henry, chill out. God's
I
got
feel
it.
you.
God's got it. We're fine. But no, she's really good at asking to, like, pray for me, and that's something I really need to get better at, is ask like, I ask her the same question after she asks me. I need to be good at initiating that because I feel like that prayer, you know, through prayer through the doubt is what's really valuable. I think it's Saint Ignatius in his Rules of Discernment talks about, you know, like when you try to do something, right? Like you can become discouraged. So whatever that thing is that you're trying to do it either longer or do it more just to basically like beat your flesh into submission spiritually,
Hmm.
which is sort of neat.
Yeah, I like that.
But has there been a time when the church either hurt you or helped you so much? Like what experiences maybe have you gone through, and what has that taught you?
Sure. I think both, right? Like everywhere you go, you're going to have your highs and lows. You're going to have your great people and you're going to have like not so great people. And that's okay. It's all, learning and it's all just like navigating to find your community. I think what was hard for me is, and I think reflecting on it, maybe if I came into the church in a different way, I had been looking for a church, but being introverted and just like I go in the office every day and, I just kind of take the weekend to decompress. And I was like, I kind of want a church where it's like I can go, but I can also watch online because every week I'm not there, I'm watching online,
Yeah,
which I love about this church. But when I first came, I had come with Tim. Again, he's been there for 17 plus years. So it was like really honorable to come there with him. And like he already has his community established. But I think I got a little bit of judgment from people who have been there for a long time, who've known him for a long time. And whether it came from a place of like, we've known him, we want to like look out for him, but also of like, who is she? Like, is she Catholic? Like, why is she here? Like, why has she never come before? Like, is this place really meaningful to her? Like, whatever thought it was, I just kind of felt like I didn't necessarily belong when I first came. And again, like I had said, you just never know what people are going through. And it took like a lot of courage for me. Of course, I'm the type of person who will do anything for anyone in my life. I will drop anything to help someone, to support someone. So I
mhm,
didn't think twice about going to a church to support him for like what he loves doing and hearing
mhm,
his music. But at the same time, it took a lot of courage for me to come to a church like of, such prestige that's so important to like him,
yeah,
but like, a lot of people. So I think that judgment that I felt in the beginning was a little hard. But again, at the same time, I've met like people, like Michael and Chris that like make you feel like they're just normal people. They're here like worshiping God, loving others. And that's all that like God really wants us to do, And I think
mhm,
that courage that I just kept building through them with help of Tim, meeting you, meeting other young adults that like through sports and those people that like show up and just like come not only to like your events or like your things that are important to you, but they come with like full force. They're like
yeah,
100% in it, fully supportive, like, checking in on you, like really genuine people. I think they've really kind of turned my thoughts on coming to church. And I think I still need those moments, or I feel those moments of like people looking at me and they're like, why, what is she? How does she believe? What's her faith? Like, what's her background? But I found as once I'm like open and just getting to know people too, they're kind of a bit more receptive to me as well. So I
Yeah.
think I've had both sides of it, and it's been like really helpful along the journey.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, no, and that is one of the most important things is yeah. I mean, I've gone into I forget, there was a time when I went into a church that was in the city and I sat down in a pew and I kid you not. I thought that this was a myth. Someone came up to me and goes, "Hey, like we normally sit here. Do you like would you mind like letting us sit here?" And in my mind, I was like, "You have to be joking right now." I was like, "This is crazy." So, I mean, I moved, but it was yeah, it definitely has, like, those things. I'm sure if I went
Yeah,
there more often, like, I'd definitely have, like, that welcoming feeling eventually, but no, yeah, I
sure.
definitely understand where you're coming from on that.
I mean,
What,
we're in church, right?
or wait, say that again?
You're in a church, so it's like
Yeah,
you really shouldn't like be
yeah.
feeling like you're doing anything
I'm
wrong,
a
you know?
newcomer. Yeah. But no, that's yeah, it's all part of the process. All part of the process, unfortunately. What uh what practices, habits, or rhythms have like helped your faith feel real and not just something that we talk about, right?
Yeah, I think it's just, again, making that time for God throughout your day, but I feel like it's so much easier to do. I think I started talking to him as a friend like the last 2 years of, I would find that if I try to set that time for him of, my most vulnerable state is like when I've relaxed for the day, I'm going through my like nighttime routine, showering, getting ready for bed. And like I used to dedicate some of that time towards like talking to him. But the more I found just like talking to him throughout the day, like, hey, like I'm really thankful for this, or I'm really, upset about this. Can you help like guide me through like what I should do? I think that like ritual of just incorporating him in my daily life has been so moving and so much more I guess like relieving that I feel like I have someone I can always talk to. And he's
Mhm.
definitely like I see signs too, like I'll look out for signs. So not to like make this sad, but my grandfather passed unexpectedly on
Mhm.
Thursday, and I was supposed to buy a car that day because my car is not doing well, and I found that on a Wednesday. So I kind of needed to make a move quick, and I'm never certain on anything. I always overthink decisions I'm making, especially like big decisions like a car purchase. And, something my grandfather always said about me was just like, Taylor will make it happen and she will find every way of doing it. So I just had to live that in honor of him and like follow through with this car as like, distraught and sad I was on Thursday. I was like, I gotta make this happen. I still gotta get this car because he was, like, very much in the automobile industry, he worked for GM, so I was, like, so excited when I saw the car before he passed. I saw it on Wednesday, and I was going to buy it on Thursday. I was like, "I'm so excited to show him, like, he's gonna be so proud." But I never got to show him, but at the same time, I bought it on Friday, and I had to get a new license plate because I was going from a car to an SUV, and the license plate, the last 4 digits were 3019. The day that he passed, the day that I was supposed to show him the car. I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's
Oh
here."
my
Isn't that crazy?
goodness.
It's so wild. So
Taylor,
just
that is
seeing those signs,
insane.
isn't it crazy? I didn't even notice it. I got the car, I'm just like so in my feels. I'm so like proud, but I'm so sad that I didn't get
Yeah.
to see him or show him this car. Like he would love the sunroof and the color. And, I'm like looking at my pictures and trying to write like a little post for him, a memory of like why I ended up getting this car and how I was excited to show him. And I'm like looking at the pictures and I see it. I'm like, I immediately like stop. I'm just like, my heart just stopped. And I text him and I was like, oh my gosh, look at the last 4 digits of the license plate. She's like, Oh my gosh, he's like, God just works in mysterious ways. So it's
Yeah,
like I definitely got to show him and he was there. So that was just so cool to see those signs. So
that's
I think
crazy.
incorporating that and just looking for those they're there, they're everywhere. It's but that was just so crazy. It's wild.
That is yeah, that's definitely God honoring, like, what you wanted to do, and I'm really sorry again
Yeah,
about
no, I
that, but
appreciate he's here, so
yeah,
clearly
no,
on my
clearly
license
he's
plate
with
every
you.
day. That's
Yeah.
so awesome.
Yeah, no, wow, that is amazing. Oh my goodness. So, I do have a question. This might be a little bit more of a
Sure.
personal question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but it's totally up to you.
I'm an open book.
With you and Tim getting married, I don't even think I've asked Tim this question.
Sure.
What is your thought? What if, what are your what are your thoughts on going to the Catholic Church?
We are getting married in the Catholic Church. Yeah, we are on in June, and I kind of let that up to him, just because he not only because he is Catholic, but he's also like been so involved with the church and how he wants that ceremony for him. I've kind of let him run with that more so. Like he obviously like he was looking at scripture of what would be read and
Yeah.
and I loved it. He and I are just two peas in a pod. We complement each other so well. We have such similar characteristics. I have full like trust in him. And one of the questions they asked me is like, "Do you agree to raise your kids Catholic?" And like anything in life, we all have our own perception of things. So I think Tim and I are just so like interlocked on like what we perceive the Catholic, religion to be and like what
Nice.
we want to give our kids out of that religion. So of course I agreed, we will raise our kids Catholic. My mom went to Catholic school. So I'm well versed enough to like know what that would look like. But I
Mm,
think following the same course my parents did of just, here's what we really want out of this for you. We want you to find that faith in your own. And
yeah.
if you feel to, follow that faith and, fully in that Catholic, world, that's great. But, if you find God in a different way and you're still that Catholic, but you don't go to church every Sunday or, you
Mhm.
worship in your own way, like that's all we can ask for. So I think the marriage in the Catholic Church was always something I just knew was going to happen, being with
Yeah,
him. But I think it's just as long as we're on like lockstep, but like I call it with the religion, the aspect, like I'm really open to it and I couldn't really think of a better place for like, our life to go forward in that kind of starting in that community.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Love to hear yeah, you and Tim really are 2 peas in a pod. You guys are great for each other.
TC squared.
Yeah, seriously, DC squared, gotta love it. Oh my gosh, maybe you guys can, like I don't know, you guys probably already have, like, your specific signatures, but this is me just, like, thinking, it'd be so funny if you guys had, like, very, like, similar, like, signatures, just like TC or something like that. I don't know. Could be
I would
funny.
love that. We've made so many like icons on like ChatGPT of just like stuff to like put at the wedding. I'm like, this is
Yeah,
just so goofy and fun, but we've really enjoyed it.
that is so that's so good. Oh my gosh, love it. So, I guess one of the final questions I just have for you here, if someone listening feels stuck or distant from God, what would you say to them based on your own journey?
I'd say, again, find your journey and you can restart it at any time. If something's not working for you, if you don't feel like you're getting the feeling out of like worshiping God or following his teachings or his passages the way you want, like find another way. There's just endless opportunities, surround yourself with people, like build your community, the people who are in your corner and like support the views you support or feel the way you feel and kind of use them to build upon, your own like feelings of religion and stuff. And,
Yeah.
look for him every day. Like if you're discouraged, try and find those signs of he's always there and they may not be as clear and prominent as the license plate, but
Yeah.
just even those minor signs throughout the day, just like the sun shining through, I'll have those moments. And I think if you just constantly try to like push yourself to find a better way to connect with him. Again, your path isn't what it's going to look like for you. He might have you on a different path, and that's okay. And we just have to, ride the wave, like I say sometimes, of just really living in that gratitude, thankful for life and how it is now, and then just constantly persevering forward, loving others the same way we love him.
That wow. I could not have said that any better. That is great. That is great.
You're the best, like, public speaker I've ever heard, so I
Well,
doubt that.
that's very generous. That's very generous. No, I'm like thinking of ideas, like, just as you're saying this, because that's really great. We gotta set up a podcast at some point. I think I could have, like, 3 or 4 people on, like, at a time. So I think it'd be really cool if, like, we do another podcast, and we can do, like, a three-way podcast or whatever. I can bring Allison on, and
I
we can
love
all have,
it.
like, a fun, like, little podcast, similar to the
Yeah.
one that, was recently uploaded. Allison likes to come on as a co-host, and I love to have her on as a co-host too, because she makes the conversation
Yeah.
really easy and everything. But Taylor, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I think that this episode was great. I think we knocked it out of the ballpark. I cannot wait to have you on for another episode. And with that being said, if you're listening, like I always say, if you made it to the end of this episode, God bless your soul for making it to the end. And we cannot wait to see you on the next one. So, yeah, peace.